I got an abortion when I was 28 years old and an intern at Bellevue Hospital. The most remarkable part of the experience was that I was pretty solidly pro-life until the minute I found out that I was pregnant. I went to Notre Dame, and my friends and I used to sort of talk hypothetically about, oh, of course we would give it up for adoption, which was ironic because most of us were not having sex by that time. I think the most remarkable part of everything for me now is I deal with so many women the minute they find out that they're pregnant and they are shocked and scared, and being able to take this experience and give them a non-judgmental, supportive voice to say, look, regardless of what you decide, you will make the right decision. And just the relief that comes to their face, it's really, really remarkable.
I had a boyfriend. We had been together about a year, and then we started going through this off and on period where we would break up and get back together. And it was very, looking back, it was definitely toxic and immature, and maybe just the kind of relationship that you have when you're 19 and you're just figuring things out. I was on birth control. I was on the pill the entire time. And in a gas station bathroom, I found out I was pregnant, and I was hysterical. And it was this weird realization, all in the gas station bathroom, that not only did I not want to have this child, I didn't want to know this guy at all. I just felt like he was a really bad guy, and I didn't want to be with him. And I knew right then that I did not want to know him for the rest of my life. And I was really scared and really horrified and so ashamed and felt so stupid. And my parents said I was killing their grandchild. They offered to raise it. And I thought about what that would be like. And I thought that that would be the worst thing that could happen to any one of us. This potential child and me and the guy and my parents and his parents. And it just seemed like the worst idea in the world. And I said no. And my mom made a big scene. She was crying and hysterical at the clinic, and it was really embarrassing. I remember the guy at the time too. He had been fighting with my mom through me, like about paying for it. And I just felt like that no one cared about me at all. Looking back, I am so grateful I had the strength to go through with it. But I'm also just so sad for that younger version of myself. I wish someone had been there for her. It started me down a path of pain that had nothing to do with the actual abortion, so much as the way of it. Like my family and my loved ones and people I thought cared about me treated me, and yeah, sometimes I think now, oh my God, I could have a kid with that guy. I could have a kid with that guy. I could still be talking to that man. He might still be in my life, and I am so grateful that I did what I did.
I got pregnant when I was in my early 20s, and I was in a severely, horrendously abusive relationship. I actually still suffer effects from it to this day. And so I was terrified, and I thought, I can't keep this child. So I made an appointment for an abortion, and the night before I was scheduled, suddenly the baby that had felt just like an invader and something that was just going to like destroy everything felt like a baby, and I just couldn't do it. It was a semi-open adoption, and I got letters and pictures, and it was the single most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, and I've had a really difficult life. It just breaks my heart to think about people being put in that situation involuntarily, because I did that voluntarily, and it was the worst thing ever.
I'm hardcore. Well, let me start over. I had an abortion this summer.
I'm a Republican, nuanced perhaps, but still. I grew up in a very strict religious household. Although over the years I've come more into the each person's choice idea, I would have said before this that abortion is a choice I would have never made. My husband had a vasectomy 7 years ago, so we thought that there was nothing we would have to worry about. But after a few happenstance moments that got strung together, I took a pregnancy test and it was positive. We discussed a lot. We didn't want another baby. We were at completely different places in our lives than when we had our own babies. We felt like bringing a baby into this world would take away from our own children and, to be honest, to take away from the future that we had planned for ourselves. And we struggled with that reasoning because on base it seems so selfish.
I am an OBGYN. I am an abortion provider. And I accidentally got pregnant as a married person with 2 kids. There was a lot of shame in that for me. If anybody should know how to prevent pregnancy, it's an OBGYN with a specialty in family planning. I felt too embarrassed to seek care with the providers that I know or the clinic that I worked in. I felt a lot of shame, but my husband and I decided that 2 kids was enough for our working family. So I drove 2 hours to a clinic in a different county. I did not disclose that I was a physician or had any clinical experience, and I really struggle with that push and pull of being out as a provider of abortion care and believing in it so strongly, but feeling deep shame about choosing to have one myself.
I had an abortion earlier this year, and you're only the 3rd person I've told. I am religious, and so at first I attributed maybe this is a plan from God, that this was some kind of divine intervention to give us a 3rd child that we had not planned for. But then I also realized if I attributed that act to my God, then I also had to attribute the fact that my daughter's cells migrated into leukemia. So I didn't attribute either to God and instead attributed it to some huge amount of fertility that I somehow still have at 37 years of age. So I did get an abortion, and I remember just crying tears throughout the whole process, tears for loss of something that I had never even wanted, and partially tears of shame as well.
I had an abortion when I was 29, so almost a year ago today. It was a late-term abortion, so it's 3 days long, and it started on the day Biden was elected. There's no one single reason why my partner and I decided to have an abortion, but the reason that tipped us over the edge was that I am a person who lives with a disability, and I didn't think I was going to survive the pregnancy. It was the worst thing that had ever happened to me, to anyone I knew. There are not many support groups for something like that. There's support groups for things like infant loss or miscarriage or child loss, but not these decisions to terminate.
I kept having a feeling that the abortion didn't work. I found myself buying pregnancy tests and randomly doing pregnancy tests. And for at least a year, I kept having dreams that it didn't work, that I had the baby. I was going through about a month ago an old bag of bras, actually, to give to my daughter, who's now 29. And in that bag, I found a pregnancy test because I would buy them and hide them. The notion that a woman doesn't care or doesn't think about it is so wrong. It's so wrong.
I wake up every
week, at least one morning every week, with anger and resentment and regret over the life I could have had if I had been allowed to have an abortion when I needed and desperately wanted one. Still so angry at having my body, my personhood taken away from me.